the market should resume probably for the second half of April and May its way up.
Bruno, welcome back to our studios here in Geneva. It's great to have you back. And looking at the US markets, they're about the same level that they were the last time you were here. Do you think that the uptrend will be resuming soon?
Well, good morning, Celeste. Indeed, if we look at the daily charts, what we noticed is that 2 weeks ago we were on the big down day, the big black candle here in the middle of the charts. And then it rebounded toward a support rising, blue support rising trend line here around 23, 22. But it's still below the upper resistance trend line. So we are still waiting for the breakout and the signals. The momentum is a little bit overbought on the lower side of the panel. So we could have a little dip probably toward 2300.
And the global markets are also, they're quite mixed at the moment. For example, in Asia. Are you worried about this?
Well, it's true that it is not really helpful. We had the Nikkei, for example, here with the upper part of the dotted line down. That means it was underperforming the S&P 500. And the Nikkei was within a narrow range, and it seems or tries to break down below 18,900. Maybe we should not be too precise and keep the level of 18,650, the previous low in January, as the key levels before we turn bearish.
And so is the uptrend that we saw in the Europe market still intact?
So it looks much better on the European side. As we notice on the upper part of the panel, the dotted line is still rising. That means outperforming the S&P 500, and we see a new high, 3508, with 2 days ago a weekly or daily reversal. That means probably a little pause between 3508 and 3425. 3425 is probably where the support, rising support is coming up, and we notice that the overbought area will probably less overbought in a few days if we have a little bit of a pullback.
And emerging markets are also doing quite well. Do you think this will continue?
Well, look at the different markets. First, China. Of course, what we noticed is that we had a little correction the last 10 days. Then a rebound on the support, the rising support again, the blue rising line. And the relative strength line, which is the black line versus the S&P 500, is also rebounding. So here, with the momentum, which is now from overbought to oversold on the lower panel, it's probably a signal, a resumption of the uptrend. We look at India also. India has been outperforming a lot. The relative strength line on the black line on the upper part of the panel is rising strongly. And we have reached almost 4180, which is the target short term for the India. So maybe we'll got a little bit of rotation, India pausing and the other market rising. We'll see also Brazil has been in a training range, has been able to rebound on 36.35 and move above the descending blue trend line. And that's moving upwards with the black line on the top part of the panel, which is rising as well. So both indicate relatively bullish markets.
Okay, and so going back to the US markets, what will be the signal for the uptrend to resume?
We have been looking at one signal, which was interesting, which is the ratio of discretionary versus staples, which is basically representing in here with the black line, the ratio of cyclical versus defensive. And in the last 10 days, despite the fact that we had this big down move 2 weeks ago, since this ratio has been moving up, that means cyclical are outperforming defensive. This is usually happening at the beginning of a resumption of an uptrend. Also, we have this green surface here, which represent the interest rates. And this is also moved from 260 at the top to 230, which is the bottom of the range.
Okay, and so what impact would that have on the financial sector?
You're right, that's the right things to look at. Financial sectors is really has been correcting, if you wish, during the month of March. Here we have a weekly chart. We see the black line on the top part is moving down, almost super over the trend line, over the interest rates line, which is in black, and both of these lines indicated a correction in financial sector, and financial sector moved from 25.21 back to the levels of in December, the support levels of 22.80 about, and from there it rebounds, and momentum also on the lower part of the channel is moving from overbought to oversold, so now it's ready to give a buy signals.
Okay, so Bruno, what else could boost the US markets?
We remember that there was something which was not doing too well, that was commodities, basically during the first quarter. Here we had the oil price, which was first flat and then started in the last 2 weeks to move down. It broke below 50, which was a psychological level. It went all the way to the support rising trend line, which is going at 47 and rebounded last week with a weekly reversal. This is good things because the relative strength line of the energy sector versus the S&P, which is represented on the upper part of the panel with this black line, is making a bottom and it's rebounding. So from there, with the momentum on the oversold side, on the lower part of the panel, we have an indication that oil could help also the S&P rise, and the energy sector, of course, as well.
Okay, so how long will we have to wait for this uptrend to resume?
You really ask the tricky questions. It's always difficult to figure out the timing precisely. What we've got is an idea of how much it has moved from an overbought situation to a more neutral situation. As we noticed, 2400, that was the top, March 1st, and then the market moved sideways. It went all the way to 2322, and the momentum on the lower part of the panel moved from overbought to now neutral, 50%. And if we look at this weekly chart, the times where these oscillators move back up from the 50% line, that was also the time when the correction, which went sideways, was coming close to an end and moving back up. So from now on, maybe in the coming days, we have either the possibility to move slightly bit more down to 2300, as we said, at the most would be 2270, 2280, which is a 38% retracement of the whole rise from November, which is still indicating an uptrend. And from there, then the market should resume probably for the second half of April and May, its way up.
Well, Bruno, as always, such a pleasure to have you here in our Geneva studios.
You're welcome.
That's all from myself and Bruno Estier today in our Geneva studios. But if you like this video, there are plenty more on our website, dukascopy.tv.